Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Live with Breathe America. My name is Patrick Wickard. I will be your host. Tonight, we are going to have a very, very special show for you. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do tonight, right? We typically always do a show on Monday nights, and tonight happens to be today happens to be Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I didn't want to not talk about this subject. This is really, really important. And interestingly enough, there's a lot about what Dr. King has said throughout his life that really does relate to today's world and the things that we're seeing in society today. And so I thought, okay, so how do I do this man justice? And then I realized something. I can't do this man justice. He was a brilliant man with a really elegant way of speaking, and somebody that gained the respect of an entire nation. Now, so what I've decided to do is we are going to air live right here tonight the entire I Have a Dream speech in its entirety for everybody. And we're going to listen to this together. The speech is about 16 minutes long, so it's going to take a minute. But please, if you have never heard it, or if it's been a long time, please take the time to sit and listen to this man's words. And when we're going to discuss how it relates to today's world, how it relates to everything that's going on, and what we think of it. There's some big points we need to hit right off the get-go. Dr. Martin Luther King was absolutely 100% nonviolent in everything that he did. And it's one of the most, and it's why his movement was so profound. It's why he had so much success, in my opinion. And with today's world being what it is, it really draws a stark comparison to what we see today. So I'd like to see, after we talk or after we listen to this speech, where we feel. So get your questions ready throughout the speech. Let's get the questions posted. This is going to be one where we interact with each other a lot more than normal. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and start the speech. I made it about 4 minutes. John, how's that? Did I do good? Give me a thumbs up. All right, I got a thumbs up, guys. We're good. All right, so we wanted to make sure we gave everybody enough time to get on before we started it. So for those of you that are just jumping in, we are going to air Dr. Martin Luther King's speech. Oh, and yeah, share this, you guys. Please share this. Get it streaming right now to as many different places as possible, simply because this speech is powerful. This speech has the ability. It moved people 50 years ago. It's going to do it again today. I promise you that, especially with all the things that we're seeing. So with that, let's go ahead and get it started, John, and enjoy the speech, you guys, and I'll see you when it's over.
At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation. I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
You know, I've read that speech before. I don't know that I've ever actually sat and listened to it in its entirety. And things are different now for me. And they're different for a lot of reasons. You know, when I was young and digging into history and classes and studies, I had a young mind. And I didn't understand necessarily the ramifications of some of the things that man said. And it is hard to admit that. It's hard to admit that I grew up in a great world. And I never had to see those kind of things that he talks about. But it's also different because not too long ago, I got to stand in that place, right where he was standing, where he gave that speech. I got to go to a monument dedicated to that man. I got to look at quotes written on the monument near him. One of the things in that speech that sticks out to me more than anything else is when he talks about the Declaration of Independence being a promise. Being a promise. And I remember standing in that place next to that giant statue of him. And I think I said this on a live, I'm not sure. But it's time that promise be upheld. It is time that promise be, the fight should be over. You know, we've been fighting these same demons for a long time. And the vast majority of people are good. You know, so what's the delay? You know, I don't know. And yeah, Carrie gave me chills too multiple times through that whole speech. It's incredibly powerful and incredibly moving to listen to him speak. And maybe it's different for us or for me, because I wasn't around back then. Martin Luther King was a holiday growing up. It was today, right? I didn't have to go to school, you know. That's why I wanted this show tonight to be about this man's life, about that pivotal moment in his life. And, you know, we all know the outcome. You know, he was assassinated. He was killed. A man that never raised a hand in violence to anybody else was shot dead because he had a dream. Imagine how Imagine how we'd feel if that was you or somebody you loved, or if we saw that in today's time. You know, what if it was me? I mean, hell, go to my website. It says right there, The Dream. I have a dream too. And what if I got shot on my porch? Because I had a dream that's different than other people's. One that wants to bring people together. One of the most profound things for me about that speech is he includes in the I have a dream part, he talks about white children and black children standing hand in hand. He includes us all being together. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Why? Why would he do that? Why would he include white people in that comment? Why would he do that? Why would that be a part of this man's dream? Why would he deliberately talk about the sons of slaves and slave owners joining together in brotherhood? Why would he talk about it in that way? See, for me, I think it's really simple. Dr. Martin Luther King understood something, and he spoke about it earlier in the speech as well. We have a shared destiny. This is something that I have mentioned before when talking about the right and the left. Regardless of which side you're on, we have a shared destiny. Where we go, where this country goes, we both go with, whether you like it or not. We have a shared destiny. And he understood that. He understood that. And what was he asking for? What was he asking for? He was asking for the Declaration of Independence to apply to all people like it promised it would. Powerful. Carrie, absolutely. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what color you are. The pursuit of happiness. That's it. You deserve that. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what the promise of the Declaration of Independence is. It's a beautiful document. I've heard it trashed a lot more lately, as of late, than I ever had before. And I don't like that, because when you look at that document and what it is, and understand that it was written hundreds of years ago in a very, very different time, it's pretty incredible when you think about what those men wrote. And it is a living, breathing piece of history. And it represents the idea that we are all free, that we are all equal. Now, I can't do this show without bringing this up. This morning I talked about it. I touched on it. What would Dr. King say about today? What would he say about today? With his approach being what we all know it to be, what would he say about today? What would he say seeing cities burn? What would he say about what we saw on the 6th? What would he say about the continued persecution that we have seen? I think he'd be appalled. I think he'd be appalled. Dr. King said once that nonviolence is the only way. He went to great detail talking about this in many different times throughout his life. And he talked about the courage required to be nonviolent in the face of violence. Dr. King is probably one of the most courageous men to ever live, period. And I can sit here before all of you guys right now, and I can tell you right now, I don't know that I would have the level of courage that that man had. I don't know that I do. I don't know that I could sit there in the face of violence and not respond. And I got no shame in saying he was a better man than me. But he set one hell of an example, and he gives us an idea of something to strive for, something that we can reach, that is obtainable. You guys, it is obtainable. His whole movement was nonviolent. Carrie, I think you're right. I think he would be absolutely heartbroken. Crystal, yeah, he would be sick. This is a man who set an example that we should follow. If for anything else, because he was, I mean, if you're wanting political change in this country, like he's one of the most successful at it. So if for any other reason, look at what he was capable of doing or able of accomplishing through this approach of nonviolence. So I don't care what side you're on. I think I've proven that over the last 6 months. I really don't care. I don't care if you're a liberal. I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You're an American. You're my brother. You're my sister, period. End of discussion. And I want you to have the best life possible. I want that Declaration of Independence to represent you just as much as it represents the next guy. I want that for all of us. I want us to be able to come together in a way that we're able to support each other and help each other. My dream is simple. Just like his, it is tied to the American dream. That we are one people, one country under God. Period. That's it. That's it. That we can communicate with each other, that we are understanding of each other, that we pick each other up when one person's down, we pick them up, we help them. We don't kick people when they're down. Seen a lot of that this last year. Seen a lot of things in the last 5 years, really 6 years. There's just been this slow progression, just getting worse and worse in a lot of ways. But what it's also doing, it's creating opportunity for places like this, places like Breathe America, where people come together. We help each other. We try our best to communicate with each other. Be straight up. If you go into the Breathe community and they talk politics and everything else there, sometimes it gets ridiculous. Sometimes we can't find common ground. People are yelling at each other, hating on each other. But then they kind of pull back, and they're also those that are really trying. And it's a beautiful thing to watch so many people from so many different sides try to find that common ground, have those conversations. It's amazing to watch. It's something that I'm really proud of when I look at, as a whole, all that we've accomplished so far. All of those conversations, and I remember them all. I'm telling you, because I read every comment when the things get crazy and we have to jump in there and look and I'm always looking for that sliver, that little thing that tells me they're trying. People do it. Now, most of the time we get it wrong, but we're humans. Failure is the thing that we need in order to grow. We learn based on our failures. That's what human beings do. We learn a whole lot better when we learn it the hard way. And as we fight with each other and we argue with each other, I have seen this happen multiple times with multiple different people. We end up coming to an understanding. We end up learning to respect that other person, even though their beliefs are drastically different than ours. It truly is an amazing thing. And this wouldn't be possible right now. This wouldn't be happening right now if it weren't for all the chaos that we've seen, because so many of us are reaching out, wanting that opportunity to see some hope. It's a hard thing to give hope to people. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's hard. Dr. King did it better than I do. I'll tell you that. I try, but I'm not him. I hope that I'm able to give some hope to some people and to offer a voice of calm to people, offer a place of love and understanding where we can come together, where you won't be judged or persecuted. Dr. King was an amazing man. Having stood in his footsteps, amazing. Having looked out at the Potomac and knowing that when he stood there, there was a sea of people listening to every word he had to say. And he delivers that speech. That speech is iconic as they come. Have better words ever really truly been spoken for an oppressed people wanting freedom? So to all my friends, all of you watching, remember, on days like today, it's a really good idea to take a step back and look at the people that got us to this point. Many leaders have come and gone over the years of our history. They all teach us a lesson. Dr. King teaches us a very valuable lesson on nonviolence. He teaches us how to affect change in the most peaceful manner and the longest lasting manner for that. Peaceful change, nonviolent change last. Violent overthrows do not. He taught us a lot of lessons. And there's a lot of other figures in history that teach us lessons. And all are important. But on a day like today, let's be mindful of the lessons of Dr. King. Now, we're only 40 minutes in, so normally we go for about an hour. You guys, if you got questions about the speech or questions about today, any of that kind of stuff, now would be the time to throw it up. For those of you that are just joining, we've been talking about the I Have a Dream speech. We aired it a minute ago, so if you on the replay, if you want to go back and watch it, you can. But no, you guys, that monument was one of the unexpected gems of going to DC. It really was, because I'd never seen it before, and it's beautiful and it's very impressive, and it's a really amazing place. It really is. You only fail in life when you stop trying. That's very good advice, Chuck. Very good advice. Oh yeah, here was this is John looking all stoic and stupid. I was in the middle of a live. Mike was being Ninja Mike taking pictures. But yeah, it's a beautiful place, you guys. I love that. I love that monument, and I love the quotes on the wall. And I remember reading so many of them, thinking to myself, how is it we're still fighting the same fight all these years later? It might change names and it might change colors, but it's all the same. Some people that were asked about Dr. King today asked, was he a doctor in the emergency room or what? Yeah. It's not sad. It's an opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity to educate somebody and teach them about this man. We will never be united until everyone realizes that skin color doesn't make someone good or bad. What is in their heart and soul does. It all starts with us. It takes just each one of us to start the ripple effect needed for change. Chuck, that is 100% right, bro. 100% right. And that's why I keep getting on these things and trying to splash and make as much noise as I can, because I want a big ripple. I want that wave I want to form a wave that just changes people's opinions about not only themselves, but the world around us. And we start to really understand how amazing this gift that we have, this gift of life really is. Like Dr. King said in his speech, we should be judged by the character of our, by the content of our character, not by the color of our skin. And there are no truer words out there. None. Do you find it hard to comprehend that his speech took place only 10 or 15 years before you were born? John, what year was the speech? 63, I believe, 1963. So yeah, that would have been 17 years before I was born. Yeah, that's actually pretty incredible. Man, that, first of all, Carrie, making me feel old, bringing up my age and stuff and the year I was born. Second of all, if you think about it, look how far we've come. It's not that we don't live in the same world that Dr. King lived in anymore. Do we still have, does that mean that we're there? Does that mean that the fight's over? No, but things are different now. Change did happen, and I think that's let's not forget that. Like, it's not exactly the same world that he lived in. Things are different now. Chuck, you are old. Sorry, brother, couldn't help myself. Yeah, it's interesting that this is our recent history, even though that speech was in 63 and it's 2021 right now, and that feels like forever ago for those that were born after 2000. Those people. God, this was just yesterday in a lot of ways. I look at how fast my 40 years have gone by, and I think to somebody that was born in the 50s, they're still here. That was just yesterday. Like, it just flies by the older you get. At least that's what's happening to me. Man, that's mind blowing. That's crazy. Carrie, don't do that to me again. All right, the shirt. All right, so that's like the 10th comment about the shirt. So, and yes, Billy, I am afraid of you. Why haven't you seen it before? Well, because I just got it. It was up in the store for a while and nobody bought it, and I really loved it, so I bought one. But it's not in the store right now. So, quick question: should it go back up in the store? Yes or no? If you guys want this shirt back in the store, let me know and we'll put it back up in the store. Other than that, let's get back to it. What else we got? Sue. I'm also old because I saw his speech on our black and white television. Oh, Sue, you're not old. You're just privileged enough to watch that live. See, it's all about perception. Has anyone watched any of the other speeches from that day? Yeah, I haven't watched them. I read a whole bunch of the speeches from that day when I was in high school. We didn't have the internet like we do today, so we had to actually read the stuff. But I honestly, it was so long ago. I don't remember much about any of it. Yes, back in the store. Okay, I will make sure that the 3/4. It's a 3/4 T-shirt, just so you know. I'll make sure it gets back in the store. But no, yeah, it's there were a lot of other speeches that day. It was crazy. And one of the coolest things about DC, like walking up those steps to see Lincoln. You know, when I was walking up those steps to see Lincoln, I didn't even think about Martin Luther King. I'll be completely honest with you. Didn't even cross my mind. I was so taken back by Lincoln and how amazing of a monument that is, and how amazing of a speech that you know, or a place that is. And then to turn around and look back and see the Potomac and see the Washington Monument and to see, you know, all of this. I mean, it is truly a breathtaking place. But we actually wandered around, and we didn't air any of this, but we wandered around, ended up going down an elevator into the basement of the Lincoln Memorial, which a lot of people apparently don't even know it's there. And it's one of the most beautiful history lessons you could ever ask to see. And there is a whole wing down there dedicated to that rally in 1963. And there were so many things, so many pictures in there that were just amazing, just breathtaking. I can't even begin to describe what's down underneath the Lincoln Memorial. So if you're ever in DC, make sure you walk around enough to realize you can go down an elevator. It's kind of off to the corner. You don't really know. They don't really advertise it. I think that's why most people don't know it's there. Everybody walks up, looks at Lincoln, walks back out and leaves, and they forget that there's so much more there. Such an amazing place. And yes, you know, Sophia, he was really a great man with an amazing message and an amazing approach to maintaining peace and nonviolence. He's beautiful. What an example to live, you know, to follow. Refresh. I promise you won't regret watching Lewis's speech. Done, Crystal. I will look it up and I will listen to it this time rather than read it though. But I will find Lewis's speech. What else, you guys? Was there any other part of Martin Luther King's speech, the I Have a Dream speech, that stuck out in your head that you want to talk about? Anybody? Oh wait, I got somebody typing, letting me know that they're typing right now. This was a hard time in history with civil rights going on. Vietnam, JFK killed. Yeah, it really was a very hard time in history, Sue, for sure. Definitely a tough time. Definitely a tough time. Not something I would ever want to see us go through again. Which is another reason why I think the example that Dr. King sets is so important for us to remember. You know, it's funny, you know, I kind of outed myself the other day as a conservative, and there was a time where I was doing a show and we were talking about politics and there was all this craziness going on, and I was being asked over and over again, you know, like, come on, when are you going to stand up and fight back? You know, because people wanted me to attack. And I don't know, today I might not. There might not be a place. I look at that. I listen to that speech, and I think about what that man was able to accomplish. And at that time, what the answer I gave was, you know, when you show up at my house, then, you know, I will defend myself. But outside of that, there's no point in violence. All right, here it is. What do you think about him wishing that freedom ring for everyone, naming Stone Mountain, aka KKK headquarters, as a place he wished freedom for? What do you think was the most powerful thing he said? So, all right, I'm about to highlight how much I don't know about the KKK. I didn't know that that's what that was, John. I didn't know that was the KKK headquarters. I assume that the places, I was actually thinking about that while we were watching it, like, why did he name those places? But now that I know that, I think that ties into the exact same reason that he talked about the sons of slaves and the sons of slave owners joining arm in arm in brotherhood. His dream was to stand together with all people as Americans, regardless of color, regardless of religion, regardless of anything, that we all be Americans first. Then that was the only thing that bond right there, that shared destiny that we have with each other, you guys, there's no escaping it. And it's one of the craziest things that, like, when you watch modern politics, you watch or media, or, you know, like, I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of the news. I don't care what channel you watch. They just spin bullshit. And regardless of which side you listen to, like, trust me, I watch. Liberals think they're right. Conservatives think they're right. Everybody thinks they're right. But I got news for you. Everybody's wrong. Nobody's right. That man, he was right. Dr. King was right. Until we're willing to stand together arm in arm as Americans first, that is the only thing that we need to come together. We have a shared destiny. Okay, that is a loaded question, Billy Joe, and it's BS. But I'll answer it. I'll answer it unofficially. Is that what John's saying? Unofficially? So there has been a shift in politics over the over the time from Dr. King's time till now. So I think King would be a centrist, actually. Is where I think he would be. I think, and everybody thinks that this shift means that, the parties have changed positions. Not really what I mean by that. It's really just everything moved left, and so the right's less right, than they once were. And so, and this is kind of how it goes. But I think Dr. King would be a centrist. I really do. I think that if he was here today, as educated as he is and was, I think that he would not support either political party, because they're both divisive, and he was about bringing people together. So he would be an anti-DNC Democrat, anti-GOP Republican. Exactly. Centrist. I've been to Stone Mountain many times, never heard about the KKK there except one time, and it was recently. I think Dr. King was referring to the images of the 3 Confederate generals engraved on the mountain. Maybe Sue. The day you choose to put your brother in front of you, we win. Religion, color, political, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right, Toby. Brother first. Absolutely. You know what, you guys? This has been an amazing show, and I appreciate all of you guys that tuned in and watched it. And I want to thank each and every one of you that stayed and listened to the entirety of that man's speech. But that's just a sliver of who that man was. Remember that. He was a human being just like the rest of us. He was a flawed human being just like the rest of us. None of us are perfect, not even him. But he was a good man with a good heart who tried it, did his best to set an example that we could follow. And for that, I will always be grateful for him. Please take the time to learn more about him. He's an amazing figure in history. And I really hope and that this generation, my children's generation, is the last to be born without that man's dream being fulfilled. So whatever it takes for us to get there, let's get there, and let's do it arm in arm the way that he would have wanted. It's time, America. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching and participating with the comments and stuff. I always like when we get to talk like this. It's a lot better. And something else I got to touch on. I didn't know if I was going to do this now or later, but I'm going to touch on it now. And my producer is shaking his head, pissed off as all get out right now because he doesn't know what's coming. I don't like it when he doesn't know what's coming. But There's a lot of talk right now. There's a lot of talk in our political world right now. A lot of people saying a lot of things. And there's a call right now that people are asking for armed patriots to show up at every capital across this country in the next day or the next several days. Now, I'm going to ask anybody that sees this message is to listen very carefully. Stay home. Don't go. There's a lot of reasons why I say it. Number one, this isn't the way. Stay home. If you want to talk, if you want to vent, reach out. I get your frustration, but now is not the time. And this is not the way. So if any of your friends suggest that you go to a protest or a rally or any of those kind of things, please, God, stay home. Don't go. And I know that might be surprising to some people because I'm a big Second Amendment guy. Everybody knows that. But I'm telling you right now, none of the people I know, none of my friends are participating in this at all. This isn't what the Second Amendment group is talking about, at least not the ones I know of. And that's not to say anything fishy about this. I'm just saying that do not go. Our soldiers are at the Capitol buildings. Do not go armed against our soldiers. That is not the way. And yes, Mimi, violence is never the answer. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a man who had more success in the civil rights movement because he chose nonviolence. So anybody that is that's pressuring you or trying to talk you into going, to some protest or rally right now, or for this event, for this so-called event, don't be fooled. Don't go. Nonviolence is not the answer, especially right now. With that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up right there. Thank you for allowing me to get that off my chest. I wouldn't feel right if I didn't say something. And a very close friend of mine brought this up to me the other day, and he's absolutely right. I do not want anybody from Breathe America showing up at any of those rallies. Please do not go. Stay home with your family and your loved ones. If you're worried about the things that are coming, then, be prepared, sure, but don't put yourself in harm's way. Don't want you guys there. I want you safe. I want everybody in this family to be here when this is all said and done. I love you guys. Have an amazing day or have an amazing night. And remember, as always, be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. And hey, breathe, America.